I haven't seen this many people gathered since birthday days. This is great. Thank you. Thank you all for coming out. And thanks to Surveyor for doing this all together tonight. And I do appreciate everyone giving up their evening to listen to Steve and I talk. It's great. Maybe a little history about myself first. We'll start out that way. I've lived in Berthoud approximately 11 years. With my wife and my two daughters. Most people recognize my wife from as the manager of the athletic club and the physical therapy office, although no one really connected her last name until I started running for mayor and said, oh, you're. But, and my daughters have gone through all the schools here, so we're very familiar with all of the structures. Myself, I've been a town trustee at one point. I also worked on the Planning and Zoning Committee. So I'm very familiar with the town procedures and policies and operation. So a little bit of my background for what I call my real job and my real life. I've been in executive management for multiple different companies, some very large companies and some very small companies. Mostly all in the engineering, because that is my forte, is engineering. And I usually get called into companies, especially in the last 10 years, where they've had problems. Jim, I get a call and says, Jim, my teams are all over the floor, they can't get the new product out, they can't work together, they can't develop anymore, you gotta come in and help. And so basically I've gone in and restructured teams and helped the companies move forward and be profitable. And so that has been about, for the last 10 years, what I've concentrated on in my career. And you might say, what does that really have in common with what I'm doing in Berthoud? Well, actually a lot. So let's talk about Berthoud and let's talk about the position. So the position of mayor, well, the position of mayor is nothing more than the trustees, by the way. The mayor only has a vote, just like the trustees. He has no more, no less, no more power than a trustee, by the way. However, his real job and his main function is helping that team organize, helping bring the team together to help them keep the direction going. And oh, by the way, the job of the trustees is not to run the town. The town is run by the staff, and that's why we hire the staff. The job of the trustees is to set the policies, the procedures, the direction for the present and the future work that's being done. That is their job. And because of that, they really need to work together as a team. And if you look at the last, I don't know, I've been watching them for about the last 6 to 8 months, and I got to tell you, it's not working. The team is not together. They are not organized together. I think there is a lot of differences between them. And you know what? It's not a hard thing to work out. Again, I've done it with extremely large teams of 200 and 300 engineers. I've done it with small teams of 5 engineers. I know how to bring people together, and that's really what that group needs. And I think that's really the main job of the mayor, and why I decided, by the way, to take on this position and run. Let's talk about a couple of the current issues, because as I walk around and I talk to people in the town, there's always those 3 or 4 different issues everyone wants to talk about. At the top of the list, by the way, over and over and over, is communication and transparency. And I'm going to say that has really come about because of maybe the disconnect in the team, but also because of some of the last decisions that were made in the town. I'm not going to stand here and take up everyone's time talking about the pros and the cons of a new building, by the way. We can talk about it afterwards. But I will say that of all the things that the town needed to do, the communication of what they were doing and why they were doing it and how they were doing it was probably the worst I have ever seen. Yes, it happened very quickly, okay? Sometimes things happen very quickly. However, there could have been a lot more communication to help the citizens understand it a lot better. It's a decision that affects all of us. Whether it's the money that we're using, whether it's worrying about what do we do now in emergencies if one of the utilities has a problem, all of that could have been handled through good communication. And again, so that's another reason I'm decided to run was when I saw that happening, I realized that this is what this town needed. It needed a lot more of that communication. So the other issue I always hear, the same as Steve always hears, by the way, is growth. Always on the top of everybody's on growth, but I don't want growth. I do want growth. I don't want growth, but you know what? I want a rec center and a pool and a baseball field. Everything that, of course, costs us money. So the basic facts are pretty simple. If you are a small town and you don't have money and you put yourself in a bubble, all you're going to do is collapse. And when you collapse, the bigger towns just suck you up and you become part of someone else. You lose your culture, you lose that feeling of birth that we all moved here for, that we all love. And so it's the same story I hear over and over. And the important thing for everyone to realize is you can access, and Steve and I are in agreement with this one, you can have growth. You can have growth and you can keep the culture, right? And again, the culture is what we're really talking about, that feeling of downtown, that reason we love to raise our kids here because we don't have to worry about letting them go out and play like we do in some of the other towns, right? These are the things that we consider perfect. And the fact that we want to grow and we want to put in some more homes, that's okay. As long as those homes fit what we've already done in town, which I think all of the current building, if you look at it as it's been happening over the last few years, does fit what is happening in this town. It does fit the culture of the town. It does fit the feel of the town. The other big point is commercial industry. We definitely need to bring in more commercial industry. How do you do that? Well, you do that with more rooftops, right? You can't get a Safeway unless you have X amount of homes in the town, right? You can't get some chain restaurants if that's what you wanted, unless you have a certain amount of headcount. So that sales tax that we need from the commercial is going to be very important for us to help grow and to add those amenities to the town that we've always wanted. We knew that, by the way, back in '99 when we annexed all the way out to I-25. And I was on the board when we did that, and everybody said, "What are you, nuts? What do we want birthed out at I-25 for?" And we kept saying, for the revenue, the commercial. It's a shame that it's taken this long to actually build something out there, and a lot of that is what Steve alluded to because of the growth and things like that. But it's happening. We are finally going to be building something out there, and when it starts, it's going to go. And it's going to be a nice snowball effect out there as far as good commercial industries that will bring in good tax revenue, which will provide the money to do things like a rec center or a pool or the baseball diamonds that everyone is thinking about and everyone will like. And lastly, while we're on that topic of the baseball diamonds, the other thing I always hear is recreation. Everybody wants more and more recreation, granted. And we need, by the way, that recreation not only for the youth, but for all of us in the town. We want more trails, we want more bike lanes, we want more of a lot of things. I think there's a plan for that. I think it's a good plan. The actual details of that plan, I think, is now in the hands of a lot of citizens, which is great. There's my 32nd sign. But I think we're on the way. I think we are on the way to getting there. It's going to be a revenue issue, just like everything else that we try to do. And so lastly, let me just finish up with one quick statement that says, I have the municipal experience and I have the team organizational skills that I think that Berthoud needs today in this town. Thank you.